Hey everyone, this is Emily Graziano, and today I am here to talk about a really cool topic. I'm here to talk about one of my favorite actresses in classic Hollywood and classic movies and in acting and movies overall, Natalie Wood. And I love this coffee table book, by the way. It's just so glorious. I wanted to focus this video on 3 major points about Natalie Wood, because this is actually my 3rd attempt to try to make this video, because I attempted this earlier and I just kept rambling on and on. It was utterly terrible. So I'm just going to try to keep it to 3 topics. I'm going to talk about love with the proper stranger. I'm going to talk about the time I met Natalie Wood's sister, Lana, who was also in The Searchers as young Debbie. There's us there. That was September 15th, 2016. She was also in the James Bond movie Diamonds Are Forever. She was kind of like the other Bond girl competing with Jill St. John, I think. Yeah. And I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite movies that Natalie was in. I'm going to be talking about This Property is Condemned, which I don't own, so I have to substitute with this book pictures. So that is going to be the focus. So, I'm going to start off by talking about the time I met Natalie Wood's sister, Lana. And then here's my dad got 2 shots. My dad went with me. My mom would have went with me, but she was busy that night. My dad went with me. He took the day off work to take me. And I remember seeing the advertisement online. TCM actually had an article about it. And I'm like, wait, this isn't that far from where I live. We can go? I'm like, oh my god. So I told my dad about it. He's like, well, let me write it down on the calendar. And he took the day off work, and he took me, and I just will always be grateful for him for that. And when I met Lana, we went to the Pickwick Theater in Park Ridge, Illinois. And here's I don't know how, I printed out this article that I wrote for my blog, but I had to dress up if I was going to see The Searchers. I don't know how well you can see that. And I actually got her autograph. She autographed my copy of The Searchers, the inside right here. She said Debbie, because she plays young Debbie, and then her sister plays the older version. And weirdly enough, I think Lana has more screen time than Natalie does, actually. Like before she gets kidnapped. When John Wayne picks her up and he mistakes her to be Lucy, but she's like, no, I'm Debbie. That was Lana. So she had a Q&A session, autographs and everything like that. And I remember going up to her and saying, hi. And I was really nervous, and I'm like, hi, this is really cool for me. I've always wanted to meet like a classic actress. And when I got up to the table, that she overheard me saying, oh my gosh, which picture do I take? And she suggested to me, if you hang on one moment, she suggested to me this picture of them together behind the scenes on the set of The Searchers, because it was both of the Debbies together in one shot. And I'm like, okay, because I wasn't going to argue with her. And she asked me, well, how would you like it signed? And I said, well, can you put to Emily? And she's like, sure. And she said, to Emily with love, Lana Wood. And you can tell that she really admired, I can tell that when she picked out this picture, she just had a lot of fond memories taking it, because just the way that she was speaking, you could tell she really missed her sister. And we had to pay for the autographs, but when she signed my Blu-ray sleeve, she actually didn't charge me anything extra because I think she could tell that I was really excited, really thrilled to be there and everything, and that was very, very cool of her. But also, during the screening of The Searchers on the big screen, which was just utterly incredible, and I'm like falling over my words here, but when I got to see The Searchers on the big screen, she had a Q&A session beforehand, and I got to ask a question in her Q&A session. And my dad was really, really nervous when I got up, because I got up and I said, well, first of all, it's an honor to be here, Miss Wood, and my question is, what has been your favorite role of your career so far? Because everyone else was asking her about her sister and John Wayne and John Ford and Ward Bond, which is fine, but she was only 10 years old, and she did tell us a lot of cool information about the behind-the-scenes set of The Searchers, how Natalie and her had big crushes on Patrick Wayne, which who wouldn't, how Ward Bond got bit by a scorpion, how when she would take a bath out in Monument Valley when they in the motel they were at, they had to let the water run for 10 minutes because all that would come out would be red dust from the desert. But anyway, back to my point. When I asked the question, I asked her, what has been your favorite role of your career so far? And her answer was a mini-series that she did called QV8 with Anthony Hopkins. And it's kind of lesser known, but it was a part that she really felt strongly about, a part that she really wanted, and her agent advised her not to take it, and she parted ways with her agent because she truly believed in that project. And she said it was the most fun she'd had in her whole career up until that point. And when I sat back down, my dad, he leaned over to me and he said, that was a really good question. I'm like, see? So that was just utterly incredible for me, and to see The Searchers on the big screen was just an utterly incredible experience that I do not take for granted, and I will not take for granted. Considering the political landscape we live in now, I'm not sure if I will ever get that opportunity again. So I treasure it so much that I got to see that on the big screen, because it was just utterly, I don't know, incredible. Utterly incredible. So that was that. If you have more questions about that, I will happily answer them in the comments, or I can post a link to my film blog and you can read about it there. The next topic that I want to discuss in this video, put this up there, is the movie Love with a Proper Stranger with Natalie and Steve McQueen. And this movie was something that I had actually never heard of. I had never seen it on TCM. I never heard of it. I didn't even know it existed until the company Kino Lorber put it out on Blu-ray. And in the comments, when I read the news on Blu-ray.com, everyone's like, oh my gosh, this movie, it's finally coming on home video. There was no like VHS or DVD release. This movie. I'm like, wow, this has to be something. I'm like, well, I guess I'll just blind buy it if everybody's raving about it and people love Natalie Wood, say you need to see this film. Okay. And I saw it and I was blown away by it. I couldn't believe how amazingly awesome this movie was. And it's kind of marketed as a comedy, but truly it's not a comedy. There are some comedic moments, but it's not a comedy. It's a serious drama that actually was quite taboo for 1963, because it talks about, the whole movie centers around Natalie Wood needing an abortion and Steve McQueen securing that abortion for her, because he's gonna be the father of their child, their unborn child. And the whole thing of, well, does she go through with it? Does she not? Are they gonna give their relationship another shot? Because she truly starts to like him, and vice versa, because they have to raise money to get the abortion by doing these, like, oddball jobs or whatever. But anyway, the scene outside, no, not, well, I don't want to say like abortion clinic, because it's not really a clinic, the room, I guess, in the apartment or whatever, is so emotional that you become immersed in what the characters are feeling. And I'm not going to say whether she goes through with it or not, because that ruins the whole thing, but that scene at that moment, I mean, if you thought the bathtub scene in Splendor in the Grass was emotional, this is like that scene taken up 10 notches to the next level. It's just incredible, and I don't want to ruin it for anyone else, but I had never seen a movie with Steve McQueen in it. I'm like, oh my god, he's amazing. And like, yeah, he says to Natalie Wood in this movie, man, you look wild, you look like a woman. And I'm like, oh my god, I'm a casual viewer of Steve McQueen, and I don't even know his movies, but if he said that to me, I think I'd be like all over him too. But I do want to see The Great Escape. I own The Great Escape, and I totally want to watch that, by the way. But oh my god, this movie is just so incredible, and I get the raving behind it. And I replaced the blue case with this clear case because this is actually a double reversible sleeve. So, utterly an incredible movie that I just love. It's one of my favorite Natalie Wood movies ever. Ever. And I'm going to switch gears now, and I'm going to talk about This Property is Condemned from 1966 with Robert Redford. The second movie that Natalie Wood did with Robert Redford, because they did Inside Daisy Clover the year before. And Inside Daisy Clover, their relationship is so wrong. Like, if you look at the facts, and he is so wrong for her, and they're totally not ready to be together. But you end up rooting for them to be together anyway because they have such an immense chemistry and a friendship and a personal relationship with each other off the screen that they had from about 1965 to about 1971-ish. Because it's so terrible that their friendship, they lost touch once Natalie went back with Robert Wagner. They just totally lost touch. It's so sad. It's so sad. But Robert Redford was actually the best man at her second wedding. But This Property is Condemned is totally one of my favorite movies ever. I just watched it earlier today, again, for the second time ever, because I saw it once 4 years ago when TCM aired it. And then they aired it recently, last week, but it was on the DVR. And I watched it for the first time with it was my mom's first time watching it. I saw it for the second time. I'm like, I just love this movie. And she said, you know, this actually was really good. I enjoyed it. I like Natalie Wood. I'm like, good, you loved it. Because she sometimes doesn't like movies that I pick out. Sometimes she doesn't. That's only a sometimes. But the fact that she really loved it, I'm like, yay. I really rave about this movie. And This Property is Condemned is based off a one-act play by Tennessee Williams. And it's kind of a weird way to describe it. Robert Redford, no. The Natalie Wood's character Alva has a sister named Willie, and Willie is the narrator in a flashback story for the whole story. So the story is Alva Starr, and the boarding house that her mom and sister run. And one day, what seems to be a drifter, played by Robert Redford, his name is Owen Legate, comes into town, and he seems just like a drifter who's going to stay at the boarding house. He plans to stay a week, and he comes into town, and at first he's not sure what to think about Natalie Wood's character, because she's kind of flirty with all the other men at the boarding house that her mom is kind of insinuated to have. It's kind of like a borderline boarding house / she's like the madam almost, but she's not a madam. It's a weird setup that they never quite explain, and it's just weird. It seems like the mother uses Alva, Natalie Wood's character, to entertain the men, so they stay at her boarding house. It's quite gross, actually. The mother is the ultimate villain in this story. But anyway, Natalie Wood and Robert Redford kind of have a rocky first meeting, and eventually it turns to love, and there's the problem because he's going to leave town and she can't because her mother wants to stay and entertain the guys at the boarding house, and this one guy wants to take care of them in Memphis, and then there's the problem of, well, I want to go off with Owen, who's going to New Orleans, because Natalie Wood's character just has this dream of going to New Orleans and experiencing Mardi Gras and all this stuff, all the fun and excitement in a town like New Orleans when she lives in this, small town in Mississippi. I think it's Dobson. They say it in the film. But it's just the scenes with Natalie Wood and Robert Redford, you are just rooting for them to be together, and you can tell they have such a good rapport with each other as people, as friends, as fellow actors, and you just know that they're right for each other on screen. You just know. Then there's a really magical scene where she takes him to one of her father's cars, boxcars, empty boxcars on a train track or whatever, near the train track, I think, not on it, but near it. And they connect in that train boxcar, and they just have this intensely connecting moment that is just utterly cool. I can't explain it any other way. It's just that way. Try to find some pictures in this book. There is a cool picture of Natalie Wood sitting with Sidney Pollack and Robert Redford on set, which is really cool. She actually said they helped write one of the scenes. Yeah. And that she only took that role in This Property is Condemned because Elizabeth Taylor turned it down, because Elizabeth Taylor wanted Richard Burton to work with her in this picture, but something about the studio didn't want that, and then they dropped out, and then they offered it to Natalie Wood, and she took it because it was a Tennessee Williams adaptation, and then she requested Robert Redford, and then Robert Redford got his pal Sidney Pollack to direct, so it was kind of like that domino effect. But I don't know, I don't want to babble on about this movie, but I just love this movie. I didn't understand the hype behind it, because on paper, when you read about the description, you're like, how is this good? How can you like this movie? It sounds kind of weird. But then you watch it and you're just totally taken by the chemistry that they have. And I really wish her and Robert Redford would have done a third movie together, because they deserve to, where they actually... Well, I don't want to spoil the ending, but where they actually... that their relation, where they had a more solid relationship, I guess I can say. But it actually almost happened 3 times. It almost happened with Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice. The producers wanted Robert Redford. In the early stages of casting, never happened. Natalie Wood almost did The Great Gatsby with him in 1974, but because she was away from the screen for a little while, they wanted her to screen test. She wouldn't do that because she felt that was ridiculous, and that is. And she didn't get the part, which I think Mia Farrow was a mistake. I just do. And then it almost happened with Ordinary People. He wanted her to play the role of Mary Tyler Moore's character, but it never happened. And that wouldn't have reunited them on screen, but it still would have reunited them working together. Natalie did work behind the scenes on Downhill Racer. She was like a line producer or something. She typed scripts, was like a Girl Friday, helped with costumes. She actually was incognito as a background extra, but she wasn't like his leading lady or anything. But I just wish they would have done a third film because they were absolutely magical. Well, this is coming up to the 20-minute mark, and I don't want it to be longer than that. So if you enjoyed this video and want a part 2 on Natalie Wood, please let me know, because I will do one. If you have any comments or questions about me meeting Natalie's sister Lana, feel free to ask. My name's Emily Graziano. Thank you so much for talking Natalie Wood with me. I hope I didn't babble too much, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.